everyone. My name is Ashley Smith. I'm a team lead here with Suvoda on the professional services side. And with me today, I have Joe Benedict, and we're going to talk a little bit about the previous Greenfire legacy migration from MavenLink to Certinia. So, Joe, why don't you just give a little bit of your background and introduction of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Benedict. I am a manager on the professional services side here at Suvoda. I am a legacy Greenfire team member. Originally, when I started here about 5 years ago, I was tasked with helping streamline MavenLink as we used it then. Ultimately, we had decided to move off of the platform as it was not fitting our needs. So as I was part of the MavenLink originally, I was just brought into the continued integration of the new, of the decision we made of which PM platform we would be going with, in which Certinia was ultimately the chosen one, in which I helped with the initial integration from legacy Greenfire and Concierge to continue that effort with the unified company.
And I know that was probably a big ask and challenge at that time. A lot of work had to be done with that. So during that kind of conversation or initial preparing of that, what were some of your initial concerns that you had, and how did you address those concerns during the transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to switching to Certinia, when we utilized MavenLink, we did not really heavily rely on it for any data or anything along the lines of what we consider to be a PM tool. We mostly just used it to capture two milestone dates, which were directly linked to our financials for that month. So the main concern during that period of time was, what would the adoption look like for a tool where for MavenLink we did not utilize it and barely we only utilize it for those two fields, to something that we were now asking our teams to be in day to day, a lot more data to capture. So adoption was probably the largest piece of it, as well as the cross-functional team alignment, as we do have a lot of cross-functional teams which leverage the data that we now use in Certinia. So how we could integrate the new tool into the cross-functional teams, and as well as additional products and integrations that we utilize, such as in Jira and NetSuite and so on.
Yeah, and what did it? I'm assuming it just took a little bit of time to kind of address those concerns, and so did anything else really help? Was it the team that you worked with, maybe, or anything else that helped address those concerns at all? And then when did you start coming on the other end of that, where you were like, okay, this is going to be a good thing. This is good for the company overall.
Yeah. So what really helped resolve the concerns from kind of our team as well as the PMs was the desire for us as a combined company to have more transparency across all projects. It was really something that the whole company strived for, just a single unified platform that we could utilize to keep track of anything study related, so that we could get out of people utilizing their own personal tools such as Excel, Word, to keep track of things that were outside of the PM tool. So once we framed it that way and began exploring what it would do for them and ultimately save them time, it really opened the doors for the potential that everybody saw and ultimately adopted to once we went live with it.
Yeah, and I could see how that would probably ease some of those concerns that across the board, I think a lot of us were feeling.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And did you do anything specific to help your team kind of prepare or inform them of the changes that were coming, other than just noting to them kind of this unified and transparent effort?
Yep. So we really tried to keep transparency as clear as possible. During the initial kind of rollout of it, we provided updates for the specific milestones that we were managing with the release of Certinia. That includes the data integration, as well as the stop date of our MavenLink and the start date, what would be required up front from the teams. So that really kind of helped provide a clear understanding of what was next steps. And post go live, we were able to host office hours. We created the necessary channels internally for teams to ask questions, as well as in Jira for any ideas of what we could do in Certinia better, where the team could submit requests. So ultimately, all of that helped with the continued release of the tool.
It's great. And I know a lot of those things are things that we're looking to do with this rollout moving forward. So I think that will also help the teams as we're following a lot of kind of those, expectations, those office hours, a lot of that planning and those trainings are going into the migration that we're currently working on. And so after all that, what was the general feel maybe from your team after this was able to be rolled out, and we had those efforts and those training, we offered that support. How were you feeling after and how is your team kind of reacting to that?
So I think, with the release of anything new across a large team that manages a lot of day to day, there was some anxiety with kind of what was expected, as well as what I previously mentioned from kind of the management side of the adoption of the tool. Would people actually use it if we gave it to them? Um, Creating that kind of communication style that we allowed team members to constantly reach out, ask questions, watch videos, see Q&As, really helped push that adoption, which then ultimately helped ease the concerns and anxieties of our team. We clearly outlined what each area was for, where they would need to focus more of their time, how they could leverage it, such as attaching documents, notes, risks, so that they didn't have to use any of their external ways of managing that information. And again, once we got past kind of the initial bumps in the road, ultimately the vision kind of became clear for everyone that this was really a one-stop shop that we built, and it kind of unified everyone. It offered transparency across projects, products, teams that we didn't have before. Even the simplest task of finding out who a PM was for a study became so much easier with Satinia that was not as clear with Maven Link. So even from that aspect, it was a world of difference for where we could find information for those working on the project or even those not working on the project that just wanted to see where this particular study was right now. Once all that kind of came together, it was the team was off and running with it.
You kind of commented and noted some noticeable improvements from after the launch, saying there's that one place for everyone to go to, multiple teammates can look at it. Was there any other noticeable improvements that you would call out after the launch was made?
Yep, I would say documentation management was one thing. One thing that I think we struggle with is a way for every individual to see any contract, any study level documents without having to chase it in 10 different directions, whether it's in SharePoint, Box, Jira. We were able to post those documents directly to the project so that they could be captured and selected within seconds. That includes any risks. We did not have any way to manage risks. We did not have any indication whether a project was going great or if it was about to fall through, whether that be the clinical trial itself or the client was not satisfied with legacy Greenphire and Concierge. So we were able to bring all of that together to actually see where projects were and how they were doing, how clients were feeling about not only the specific project implementation, but working with Greenphire and Concierge as a whole. We were also very much able to get a better idea of our adoption metrics. Right now, our products, they are based off of utilization. So we only, the service fees that we collect are only based on how many sites are actively utilizing our system on a contract down to the patient level as well. So one thing that we never had transparency on in Maven Link was of a certain study, how many countries were actually using us, and thus how much of that revenue we anticipate to get for that individual project. We did not have any idea in Maven Link because there was no way to track this information outside of utilizing a third party, such as Smartsheets. We built in a custom section in Certinia per project that allowed for adoption to be captured. That includes marking if countries were in scope, out of scope, if they went active, how many sites and participants they were had scoped versus actuals. That created a whole brand new way of looking at data at the project and client level to see what countries were lagging in regards to expected and actual revenue that we could gather, and then help build trends to determine what was the common theme for why countries and or sites were not using us. And thus it helped develop adoption packets that we now leverage when talking with clients and study teams for specific countries. And it just offered a new way of us to see the correlation between adoption and for clients versus how much revenue we were getting. And it helped nail down where we actually wanted to focus our efforts when it came to countries adopting our products across the board for every client.
Wow, a lot of good notable, I feel like improvements from that end and things that just improved our overall understanding and prepare and make changes for future. But thank you for sharing those. I think those are all really, really great improvements that we can notice. And from being a part of that transition, I know a lot of those items stuck out to me, and being able to have more insight and get a little bit more detail into things that we didn't see before. So yeah, that's really great to hear. Is there anything you would have done differently? I know, there's always things we would change or maybe do, but overall, you guys did a great job with the migration. But what would you have done a little differently if you could?
Yeah, I think that one of the main things, and it's actually something that we've highlighted during this integration, but when we originally switched from Maven to Certinia, we did not so much go with the out of the box functionality with the tool. We had a lot of custom fields that we tracked that we manually added in, such as items of scope and adoption. Those weren't generic fields in Certinia. So we had to build a lot of these fields and automations we wanted to capture. While doing that, we did create a pretty extensive list of everything we thought we wanted to capture, and they were all custom fields. They all had custom kind of automations with them, and it just created a lot of noise within the system. We over-engineered it because I thought what we had to do. But in doing that, it also limits what we can do down the road. So we saw limitations in regards to, anything related to resourcing and time tracking, is everything had dependencies on everything else. So we just kind of didn't do the best job at acknowledging that, yes, we wanted everything to be in the tool, but what was actually required to be in the tool. So that was definitely something that we should have done a better job with when we originally rolled out. And it's actually something we're doing a better job of now today for the unified companies, that we are focusing more on in the box functionality. What can the tool do, and how do we best utilize the tool so that we don't create our own worst enemy by creating everything customizable? So that was the main, I would say, area we wanted to looking back, we should have kind of expanded on a little bit further to fully understand the downstream effects. And then I would say another area is explore integrations further between additional areas. We did have integrations between Jira as well as Salesforce, but we didn't really get to explore the integrations between NetSuite, Slack, and kind of anything else that the tool had to offer. And a lot of that was due to the customized features that we built. It limited us with what we're able to integrate. So that's something that we are exploring now, but that was definitely another area where we should have asked a little bit more questions before kind of just jumping right into the tool, thinking that we had to have all these customized fields, whereas we could have leveraged what was pre-existing in regards to integrations to help achieve those goals.
And I think it's huge to say that, you guys are considering a lot of those items for the new rollout, right? Because it's just going to help us with the long-term use of this product, any changes that might come downstream. So it looks like the things that you guys could have done differently, you're even evaluating that and applying those to the things that we're currently doing, like you said. So I think that's a great takeaway. Overall, I think we both agree the transition was needed for the larger improvements related to just the company growth and ensuring that we're kind of keeping the best of the best data and that we're applying that and using things again downstream, or we're just using what's best for the people that are involved in these projects. So looking back now, what would be some advice that you would give those that are a part of the bigger transition? I know as Greenfire Legacy, we're going to go through a little transition too, but it might not be as big as some of the legacy Suvoda individuals. So yeah, just what's some advice that you might give those teammates?
Yeah. So the few things I would offer. One is that to have patience with a new tool. We do have timelines for when we are going live. It is going to be a adjustment, having to pause on what's being done in currently Maven/Quintana, and then kind of transitioning into a new platform. So the patience is definitely something. And then next, I would say, I don't want to say that some challenges and complexities will occur. There are going to be challenges and complexities that occur with switching to a tool, especially for a larger organization. So definitely have patience when it comes to things not working out or kind of becoming too anxious that you're not fully understanding. We, as the core team with the integration, are offering a wide variety of ways to not only ask questions, but to have them solved and help streamline things. And personally, I think what we are doing now in regards to preparing for this integration is miles more than we did for legacy Greenphire and Concierge integration between MabelLink, Certinia. That integration was controlled with more of a smaller team. We didn't have as many resources as we currently have with the unified company. So we did our best with the training and office hours that we did, but of course this is a larger integration. So we are bringing together everything we could, including Q&As, Confluence, office hours, trainings, both for all the legacy organizations as well as the combined organization. When we're also including Slack channels. So we're absolutely going to run into issues that we find, things that may or may not work, or different expectations that individuals have that are different when we go live. Every team member has the support of the whole combined, not just group of those directly integrating the tool, but also of the combined company. There'll be plenty of ways to reach out, ask questions, and we'll be there to help along the way. Even being at Certinia 3+ years now, we still have ways to support individuals who have questions from legacy Greenfire and Concierge that myself, Ashley, and others are able to answer, because the support will never go away. We'll continue to work with you and point you in the right direction to ensure that not only this integration serves the need of the unified company, but also to everybody who will be using it.
Awesome, Joe. I really appreciate your time today, and I look forward to finalizing this migration with you and the team that we have, and hopefully just continuing to improve like always. So thanks so much for your time today, Joe. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Ashley.